Hello and welcome to the most special edition of Indianomics that we can ever put up in a year, the interview with the Reserve Bank Governor, Governor Rajan. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Morning.
Well, it's a great morning to have an interview with you. Moody's has upped the outlook on India rating. Do you see this as the first step to a rating upgrade at all?
Well, presumably they see it as a step towards reconsidering our rating. But you know, when they downgrade us, we claim not to be very sort of focused on these ratings. So I think we should be equally what is this? We should display equanimity at such times. No, the real issue is, I think this is, a positive perception of all that has been done in the last few quarters. But I think going forward, there's so much that we need to do, and so we shouldn't, lose sight of the work that remains. I've always said we have a lot of low-hanging fruits to pick in India, and the tragedy is we haven't actually picked them. So let's go about and pick them quickly.
Okay. Well, just a word more. You know, even they point out that this is only the first step, and India still remains an outlier in terms of fiscal deficit. In that context, I didn't see too much of a mention of fiscal deficit in your latest monetary policy statement. Since the March 4th statement, the state deficits, some of the state budgets are known. And how have you evaluated the deficit number? It doesn't seem to have gone down.
Well, two things. One, I think the quality of spending is important. The state of the economy is weak, and high quality public spending can be a good thing in such circumstances. But the line that is there in the statement is about repurposing spending from misdirected subsidies towards high quality investment, and I think that'll be good for the supply side in the longer term. And I think we should look for that also in state spending. It's not just the deficit number, but it's what they're spending on. Now, of course, there's some talk, it's not about investment, it's about other kinds of spending, but we have to see. The other thing we have to remember is that any kind of spending, if it's in new directions, takes time to ramp up. So investment spending has been sort of subdued over the last few years. So even public investment spending will take time to ramp up.
Actually, some calculations indicate that this year is actually a fiscal expansionary year, net of asset sales especially, and even without that, it's a 0.1% higher fiscal expansion over previous year. It doesn't worry you?
Well, would I be happier with more fiscal consolidation? Of course. From a fairly narrow monetary policy perspective, yes, I would be. But these are calculations that the government makes, taking into account the various demands, including what it needs to do to get investment up and going. So we have to work with the reality. There has been a substantial number of good measures, medium-term measures that have been put into place in the budget, and there is a fiscal consolidation path that is set in place over the medium term. So keeping that in mind, we have to work with the space we have.
Okay, let me come to the other big caveat that you always have for rate cuts, inflation. We've moved away from double digits to just a little north of 5%. How much of this is structural or secular? How much of this is just because we are lucky, cyclical, lower prices?
What was it Lincoln said about the general who was drunk most of the time, and he said, I wish my other generals found the brand of whiskey and drank that. If it's luck. The main thing is, does it bring the economy to a different level in terms of expectations, in terms of demands for wage increases, etc., etc. So when you were at double-digit inflation, yes, we needed a little bit of luck so as to sort of anchor or unanchor inflationary expectations. Now that inflation is lower, and if people see it coming off the items that are most sort of salient to them, things like vegetables, things like milk, things like petrol. If they see inflation there coming down, then their perceptions come down. And as their perceptions come down, then the demand for double-digit wage hikes, etc., also come down. So hopefully, we've at least accomplished the first part of that, which is the salient items are perhaps less expensive today than would have been true if the previous rate of inflation had gone on. Now we have to build on this.
Okay.
This is why we can't relax our guard quickly. We cannot say that we're out of the inflation woods, that this is a time we have to consolidate and ensure that the disinflationary perception is entrenched.
But have you seen any victory at all in terms of structurally inflation coming down?
No, look, a number of elements are coming down, including the services. So it's not just vegetables. A number of services are also coming down, or at least not going up at the rate that they were going up at. That, to my mind, is a positive development. But we have to build on this. We can't at this point say we're done. And so I think it's a long drawn-out battle.
Okay. Actually, your inflation expectation survey of March 31 indicates that household inflation expectations have inched up a smidge.
Yes.
That is why my question, does it look like the disinflation process is over?
I don't think that's the message to take away. I mean, these expectations certainly have built up over a long period of time, but also driven by what's happened most recently.
Okay.
So to the extent that vegetable prices started firming up, it is seasonal. Also, petrol prices started firming up a little bit.
Okay.
So given that, I wouldn't be overly worried about a notch up in those expectations. But yes, if it starts climbing back up, I would start worrying if this persisted for a reading or two.
Okay. You know, if you looked at your real rate, at the moment we are at 5.4 and the repo rate at 7.5, we are at a 2 percentage point real rate or real return. At as of March, we will be at 5.8, and you know, if we continue where we are, then we will actually have a lower real rate. Should it not be the other way around? Then you should have a lower real rate when growth is low, and as growth picks up, you should have perhaps a higher real rate. So, I mean, isn't there a case to advance the rate cut? If any.
I didn't quite follow the reasoning there, but let me.
The real rate is higher now, and if inflation went to 5.8, the real rate will be lower in March,
right,
given the same repo.
Right.
But shouldn't it be the other way around? Growth is weak, it deserves help now.
Well, growth is weak and it deserves help. That is a statement that I hear often. Growth is helped by many factors, and the interest rate is just one of those factors. And of course, to the extent that it can be moved based on perceptions of inflation, etc., it will be moved. Now, as far as our projections, why are our projections of inflation higher down the line? In fact, they come down, and they come down because of what we call base effects, right? That inflation last year was higher in July, August, and as a result, from that reading to August this year, we may look lower, and that's why inflation will come down. Not because over the period the underlying inflation has been slower. But we're looking through all this, and what we said in the statement is we want more information. What is the underlying process of inflation? Now, when people say 5.8 is your forecast, now I keep saying we're not astrologers, the good astrologer, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen. These are not perfect forecasts. These are best estimates. Okay. And as information comes in, we will see how much more room we have or how much less room we have, and act accordingly. Now, people say, oh, you have no room or you have room. Well, that depends on the entire set of information that we will make our decision on. And I won't preclude it or say we have gigantic amounts of room. It really depends on the information.
But is there at least a a downward bias to your 5.8% March 2016?
I'm not sure that you want to put. I thought we said, and if I remember the words, it was equally balanced.
Okay.
There are upward pressures and there are downward pressures. So our sense is that's about what we would look at. Now, of course, if oil prices fall significantly further because of Iran, that will be very helpful. If the food management that the government has embarked on in the past year works as successfully as we go into perhaps more difficult times, then that would also be a positive on the downside. So we have to wait and see. Their upward pressures are obvious. The recent disturbances, weather disturbances, will create again disturbances on the food price. There's some indication that rural wages may also have stabilized, are not going down as much as they were going down earlier. Yeah. So that may also support wages, and we have to see. Okay. So given these uncertainties, I think more information will help us determine whether we have more room or less room.
Okay, well, there are some, ultimately it is higher productivity and higher supply side measures that will be perhaps responsible for structural inflation coming down. Do you see the first steps for that? Or to phrase it the other way around, what is your visibility for that 4% inflation in 2018?
I think over time the supply of goods and services will improve in this country, and a number of efforts, the whole Make in India sort of campaign is, in my view, primarily a way of increasing the supply of goods and services. Okay. And I think as that kicks in, well, the immediate part of Make in India is let's get the stalled projects going. Yeah. Let's create the environment for new investments to be announced. And I think you're seeing some movement on both these dimensions. Stalled projects are coming down steadily, perhaps not as fast as everybody wants, but they are coming down. And new projects are being announced in a much bigger way than earlier. So both these, to my mind, are good developments, and we have to build on them.
Okay. Governor, I have to take a break on this note, but I have a couple of more questions on inflation and, of course, on the whole host of banking sector issues. Back in a minute.